gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to another episode of Erik Whiskey Studies. Welcome to round 3 of my showdown between Islay 10-year-old single malt Scotch whiskeys. In this corner, I have the Caol Ila 10-year-old Islay single malt Scotch whiskeys. It was aged in refill U.S. hogshead and rejuvenated European butts, bottled at 58.2% alcohol by volume. Sells for $193 on the secondary market. I probably paid around half of that. So this is a Fish Ale edition. If you're not familiar with Fish Ale, it means Festival of the Island, which is a yearly event that takes place in May on Islay. And the distilleries released a special bottle. So I picked this up in June 2018. I wasn't there for the festival, but they still have bottles left over in the month following, so I was able to pick this up. Now, some people might complain that, hey, you know, this is not a core range whiskeys. The Laphroaig 10, Ardbeg 10, and the Port Charlotte 10 are all core range that you can get access to, so why do a hard-to-get bottle? Because sometimes it's worth comparing the hard-to-get bottles with your core range to say, you know what? Your core range bottles are sometimes just as good, perhaps even better than the hard-to-get special editions. So, I really like this whiskey. Really enjoyed visiting the distillery. I would say next to Bruichladdich, probably one of the best views from the dock. Both from Bruichladdich and from Caol Ila, you can see the Isle of Jura. An absolutely beautiful distillery. However, about 90% of their production actually goes into blends. So when you buy a regular bottling of Caol Ila, most of the production is made for going into blends, and I think more or less what they tend to sell is, okay, this is what goes into blends, now we'll do a bottling of it as well. So that can be sort of a challenge, I think, with Caol Ila. But this is a really nice whiskey, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to compete up against our current reigning champion. This is the Bruichladdich Port Charlotte heavily peated Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, 10-year-old, peated at 40 ppm, 65% was aged in first fill American whiskey cask, 10% in second fill American whiskey cask, 25% in French wine cask, bottled at 50% alcohol by volume, sells anywhere between $55 and $70 in the United States, and I paid $65 for it. I probably paid around $100 for this. When you get a bottle directly from the distillery, there's no middleman, there's no markups, there's no distributors, there's no shipping costs and all that. So they can afford to sell it to you at a reasonable price, which is another reason why to go visit distilleries, because you can get some great deals and some distillery-only bottlings. Every distillery has a distillery exclusive bottling, and I love picking those up for my travels. But the special bottles, the unique bottles, those one-offs aren't necessarily better than your core lineup. You know, for Ardbeg, for example, I love the core range. Absolutely spectacular. The Corey Vrecken and the Ogle are very hard to beat, even by their special bottling. So I'm going to start off with the Caol Ila, and then we'll get into the Bruichladdich. Now, color-wise, look really quite identical. Sort of the apple juice, mild gold, slight copper color, a little bit of bronze in there as well. If you've had a Caol Ila before, and you have your mindset as what you expect from a Caol Ila, this is really different. If you were to taste this blind, I would say I probably wouldn't go, oh, I think that's a Caol Ila. This has got some really intense and powerful peat on it. And because it's so young, it's only a 10-year-old, that peat really pushes forward. So I get a lot of barbecue note. It has more of a char and campfire that has not quite gone out, but just about to go out. I get grilled stone fruits, a little bit of lemon, apple, a minute amount of spice, a little bit of cinnamon, and definitely some vanilla, lighter caramels. On the palate, wow. You can have higher ABV whiskeys that even though they're higher ABV, they don't necessarily have a huge bite to it. They have some warmth, but don't have a bite to it. And I think sometimes peat can help sort of soften the impact of a bite of alcohol. This has the bite. This has the bite. I've got the bottle down to about right here. Recently had it on ice, put it on water, sort of get back to the bottle. I hadn't had it in a while, sort of refresh my memory of it. And it does really well on with a little bit of water. It not only just brings back the ABV a little bit, but sort of softens the edges on it and brings out a lot more fruit. It's got a real nice long finish. It is a mouthful of peat, smoke. I would say sort of apple and pear with a little bit of cinnamon and a lot of vanilla. Big challenge on this one is, you've heard me make this comment a lot, I paid a lot of attention to the structure, the mouthfeel, but also the development from the front to the middle and then the finish. It doesn't have a lot of evolution going from the front to the middle and to the back end. It's pretty much the same. So I'm getting kind of the pear, the apple, a little bit of cinnamon with loads of smoke, and then mostly what is in addition through the development is going to be a lot more vanilla, I would say, on the back end. It has a medium length finish, but it is very intensely smoky. But the character of the smoke is really, really different than if you're familiar with, of course, with Laphroaig, Ardbeg, or Lagavulin. Caol Ila has its own character that really makes it different. But one of the things about the whiskey is, if 90% of your production is for going into a blend, then the whiskey is sort of designed to play a base for a whiskey that you're planning on filling in other flavor components to complete the flavor profile. And and I don't know for sure, if all they're really doing is taking the whiskey that would normally go into a blend and bottling it as a single bottling, then it's not sort of designed to fill in all those spaces, because it's been thought of and designed to fill in the flavor components from other whiskeys by a blender. And so you're really getting a whiskey that doesn't have the complete and full flavor and range of flavors that a whiskey might normally have. All right, I like it. I think it's very, very, very good, but I think it's a little bit, it's like a 3-chord song, going from front to middle to finish. That is its primary weakness. Now, I've already reviewed this before, but I'm going to go through it again, because one of the things and what I've learned in doing this is you can taste a whiskey by itself, know that whiskey really, really well, taste another whiskey and know it really well, and then in your mind compare that whiskey with another whiskey, and you think you're actually comparing it side by side based on memory. But actually sitting down and putting 2 glasses next to each other and going back and forth between the two is a great learning experience, because you really see more of the contrast and comparison by doing them side by side. So it's worth doing this bottle again, even though I've already recently had it in a previous review. It's funny, and when you start off with another peated whiskey that's somewhat setting your palate, another whiskey that's peated, you're sort of already prepared for it. Yeah, the Port Charlotte is definitely more barbecue, more savory. I get more saltiness off of the Port Charlotte. It's got more char notes, it's got more meaty notes to it, and a lot more like darker chocolate. If you would describe a chocolate note, this is a little bit more of a milk chocolate. It has more like grilled stone fruits, or this is more apple and pear. And this does have a little bit of sort of like a an overly cooked bacon note, which I actually really, really like. On the palate, wow. I'm gonna drink some water and do it again. No comparison, no comparison. Even though the Caol Ila is at a higher ABV, and you would think the higher ABV would give it a serious advantage. There's just way too much complexity, layers of flavor, an awesome development from the front to the middle to the finish, depth of flavor and range of flavors. There's just so much going on with the Bruichladdich Port Charlotte 10-year-old. Hands down, it's like, this is like, they both stepped in the ring, one punch, boom, Caol Ila was out. It's like, I don't know, Mike Tyson up against Pee Wee Herman. Something, you know? It's just like the total knockout. But I was kind of expecting this. But I thought perhaps the Caol Ila with that extra ABV and maybe a little bit more smoke, perhaps it might have something up on the Port Charlotte 10, but nah. There's no comparison. The Port Charlotte 10 is absolutely superb and blows this away. It's not even close. Not even close. So the Laphroaig and the Ardbeg 10, I think, was a close competition. The Port Charlotte, to my sadness, beat the Ardbeg 10, because I'm such an Ardbeg fanboy. It beat the Ardbeg 10. This, it's just like, it just completely knocked it out. An absolutely fantastic bottle, which tells you something. If this is going close to, say, $200 on the secondary market, maybe it's $100 if you could get it straight from the distillery. This bottle at $65, more readily available, you can find a bottle, blows it away. That tells you that just because you can't get to the distillery, just because you can't go to Fish Hill, doesn't necessarily mean you're missing out on the better whiskeys, because the Port Charlotte is absolutely superb, an absolutely fantastic whiskey. Now, originally this was going to be a 3-round competition between 4 whiskeys. So we did the Ardbeg 10, the Laphroaig 10, the Port Charlotte, and the Caol Ila. But I just got a donation of a bottle. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to find out in my next video. Another Islay 10-year-old. So there'll be 4 rounds in this competition. Really, really looking forward to getting into that one. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that one. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified when I go live or post new videos. And I want to thank all my subscribers and my Patreons for supporting my channel. All right, until next time, cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.
Y'all ready for this?